Halina mga bata, tayo nang mag-aral sa math, walang maiiwan. Math-sayang mag-aral tayo ng math-tuto upang ika'y umasenso. Maging matyaga, maging matalino, halina't mag-aral na tayo. Maging matyaga, maging matalino, halina't mag-aral na tayo. Halina mag-aral na tayo. Halina, 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 mag-aral na tayo.
Magandang umaga mga batang mandunong at sa ating mga home learning partners. Welcome back to Project SOAR, series of online academic review of Mathematics Grade Learning Module. I am Maam Jessa, a teacher from Andres Bonifacio Integrated School. Bago tayo magsimula, inaanyayahan ko po ang lahat na i-share ang live video na ito o mag-host ng watch party. Huwag rin kalimutang i-like ang aming official Facebook page, Math Team Mathematics Teachers of Mandaluyong, at mag-subscribe sa aming official YouTube account, MTM Channel, para maging updated sa aming mga video lessons. Kanina ay nagkaroon tayo ng pagbabalik-aral para sa ikatlong linggo ng Mathematics Grade 7. Ngayon naman, tayo ay magkakaroon ng advanced lesson para sa Week 4 ng Mathematics Grade 7. And to introduce you our next reviewer, she is a Teacher 1 at Andres Bonifacio Integrated School. She is now on her 20th year of service at SDO Mandaluyong. She graduated at Rizal Technological University, an MTOP trainer, and a teacher of Mathematics Grade 7. Mga batang manduno, let us all welcome Miss Edlyn A. Sosas.
Maraming salamat po, Ma'am Jessa, sa mga magulang, mag-aaral at mga guro. Mapagpalang umaga po sa ating lahat, lalong-lalo na sa aming Education Program Supervisor in Mathematics, Mr. Distributive I. Rodelas. Sa aming punong guro, Mrs. Olivia L. Pagborayan. Sa aming Assistant to the Principal ng Junior High School, Mrs. Marilyn Pandaan. At sa lahat ng mga batang mandulong na nanonood ngayon, magandang umaga. Welcome to our Project SOAR series of online academic review of Mathematics CLAID learning modules. I'm Edlyn Sosas, a teacher from Andres Bonifacio Integrated School, and I will be your reviewer for the Week 4 of Grade 7 Mathematics. Bago tayo magsimula sa ating aralin, ihanda muna ang inyong mga kagamitan, tulad ng Math-CLAID modules, ballpen at papel na maaari ninyong magamit sa pagsusolve. Handa na ba kayo? Halina't mag-aral na tayo. Let's have an advanced lesson in Mathematics 7 for CLAID Learning Module Week 4. So what will be our objectives? So the first of the objectives we have to illustrate the different properties of operations on the set of integers. And our second objective, to express the rational numbers from decimal form to fractional form and vice versa. So these are the properties of operation on integers. So the first property is closure property. We have the commutative property, associative property, distributive property, identity property, inverse property, and zero property. Okay, let's have the first property. So we have a closure property. What do you mean by closure property? If A and B are two integers, then quantity A plus B, quantity A minus B, and quantity A times B
is also an integers. Okay, examples. If I have A plus B equals integer, so what do you mean by this? If I have A and B, and then A and B are integers, the resulting sum is also an integers. Okay, we have our first example. 3 plus 4 is equal to 7. So this one is an example of closure property. Plus 3 is an integer, 4 also is an integers, and the sum of 3 and 4, which is 7, is also an integer. Let's have another example. We have A times B equals integer. This one, if you are multiplying two integers, the resulting product must be an integer also. So examples, 3 times 4 equals 12. Okay, again, this one is an example of closure property because 3 is an integer, 4 also is an integer, and the product of 3 and 4, which is 12, is also an integer. So let's have another examples. We have A minus B equal integer. So we have 3 minus 4 is equal to negative 1. So let us try to check if closure property is applicable in subtraction. So 3 is an integer, 4 also is an integer, and negative 1 also is an integer. So therefore, closure property is applicable in subtraction. So let's have another example. We are going to interchange the position of the two given. So we have 4 minus 3 is equal to 1. So again, 4 is an integer, and 3 is an integer, and 1 also is an integer. So therefore, closure property is also closed under subtraction. So we have our second property, the commutative property. What do you mean by commutative property? Changing the order. Take note of the word order of the addends or factors does not affect the result. Ano bang ibig sabihin nun? The result is not changing. Baguhin man daw natin yung order ng addends natin at yung order ng factors natin, still we come up with the same answer. So let's have an example. If I have A plus B, pagbalik na rin man daw natin yung given natin, gagawin natin B plus A, still magbibigay pa rin daw sa atin ng parehas na sagot. Okay. Now, for multiplication, we have A times B is equal to B times A. So kung titingnan natin dito sa left side ng equation natin, nauuna ang A bago yung B. Pagdating sa right side, nauuna na yung B bago yung A. So binago lang natin yung order ng factors, but still yung we come up with the same answer. So our first example, we have 2 plus 3. Okay, so we are going to interchange the order of the two given. So gagawin natin siyang 3 plus 2. So this is an example of commutative property. Kasi binago natin. Dito sa left side, nauuna yung 2 bago ang 3. Pagdating sa right side, nauuna na yung 3 bago yung 2. So let's try to check kung magbibigay nga siya sa atin ng the same answer or equal answer. Okay, so 2 plus 3 is equal to 5. Sa right side naman natin, we have 3 plus 2 is equal to 5. So still, equal po yung sagot natin. So we have another example, 2 plus the quantity of 4 plus 3. So wag tayong malito dito, marami ang nalilito dito. So meron po tayong groupings. So yung groupings po natin dito is 4 plus 3. So kapag commutative property po, hindi po natin babaguhin yung groupings. Ganun pa rin po. So kapag binago natin yung order ng addends natin, magiging quantity 4 plus 3 plus 2. So kung titingnan natin, sa left side ng equation natin, yung groupings natin is 4 and 3. Pagdating sa right side, still, our groupings is 4 and 3. So hindi po natin binago yung groupings ng number natin. Yung order lang po. Kasi dito sa right side, nauuna yung 2 bago yung quantity 4 plus 3. Dito sa right side, nauuna na ngayon yung quantity 4 plus 3 bago yung 2. So still, this one is an example of commutative property. So check natin kung magbibigay siya sa atin ng equal na sagot or same answer. So if we are going to perform the given operation, we have to start at the grouping symbol. So mauuna tayo dito sa loob ng parenthesis. So we have 4 plus 3 is equal to 7 plus 2, so we have 9. So dito tayo sa kabila, 4 plus 3, we have 7, plus 2, we have 9. So still equal po yung sum natin both side of the equation. So therefore, commutative property is true under multiplication. Kaya nagkaroon po tayo ng commutative property of additions. So take note, maging specific tayo, addition po yan. Bakit po addition? Dahil yung given operation natin is addition. So commutative property of addition. So itry po natin siya sa multiplication. So we have our first example for multiplication. 3 times 4. So by applying the commutative property, so gagawin natin siyang 4 times 3. So titingnan natin kung magbibigay nga siya ng the same answer. So 3 times 4, we have 12. Sa kabila naman, we have 4 times 3, we have 12. Still, we come up with the same answer. So another example. So ito na naman tayo. Mayroon na naman tayong groupings. So yung groupings natin dito ay 3 times 5. So our given is 2 times quantity 3 times 5. So if we are going to interchange the order of this factor, gagawin lang natin siyang quantity 3 times 5 times 2. So kung napapansin nyo uli, yung groupings natin sa left side, which is 3 and 5, ganun din po yung groupings natin sa right side, which is 3 and 5. So pinagpalitan natin, kasi dito sa left side, nauuna ang 2 bago ang groupings na 3 and 5. Pagdating naman sa right side, nauuna na ngayon yung groupings natin na quantity 3 and 5 bago yung 2. So let us try to check. So unahin din natin uli yung nasa loob ng parenthesis natin. So we have 3 times 5. So we have 15 times 2. So we have 30. So again, dito sa kabila, 3 times 5, we have 15. Times 2, we have 3. So still, we come up with the same answer. So commutative property is true under multiplication. So we come up with commutative property of multiplication. So wag po natin kalimutan ha, maging specific tayo. It's either commutative property of addition or commutative property of multiplication. So bakit po multiplication? Dahil yung given operation natin is multiplication or times. Okay, let's have our third property, which is associative property. So ano bang ibig sabihin ng associative property? So associative property, changing the grouping of the addends or factors does not affect the result. So groupings, paano natin malalaman yung groupings? So pag may groupings tayo, ginagamitan natin siya ng bracket, ng braces, or parentheses. So let's have our representation. So we have quantity A plus B plus C is equal to A plus the quantity B plus C. Okay, so in this representation, itong side na ito po yung left side ng equation. At itong side na ito po yung right side ng equation. So titingnan natin, ano po ba yung nakagroupings? Ano po ba yung nakagrupo dito sa left side ng equation? Ano po ba yung magkasama? Okay, so dito sa left side natin, yung nakagroupings natin is A and B. So we have quantity A plus B. So the same din po ba ang nakagrouping sa kabilang side? Tingnan natin. So dito sa right side, ang nakagroupings po natin is quantity B plus C. So nag-iba po yung groupings natin. Nagbago yung groupings natin. So this one class is an example of associative property. Okay, so mamaya po magbibigay ako ng examples. I-check natin if the associative property is true under addition. So proceed naman tayo dito sa kabila, sa multiplication. So we have quantity A times B times C is equal to A times the quantity B times C. Okay, so i-check ulit natin. Ano ba yung nakagroupings sa left side ng equation? So meron tayong quantity A times B. Okay, so how about in the right side of the equation? Parehas po ba? Hindi po. Kasi dito sa right side, yung ating groupings is quantity B times C. So nagbago yung ating grouping. So let's have an example. Okay, so we have quantity 5 plus negative 4 plus 7 is equal to 5 plus the quantity of negative 4 plus 7. Okay, so tingnan natin yung ating left side ng equation. Ano yung nakagrupo dito? Ano yung magkasamang numbers? So yung magkasama po dito ay 5 plus negative 4. So how about in the right side? Okay, nagbago po yung groupings natin. Pagdating sa right side, ang magkasama na po ay, yung nasa grupo na po ay quantity negative 4 plus 7. Okay, again, so this is the illustration of associative property. So let's try to check kung nung nagbago yung groupings niya, kung magbibigay siya sa atin ng the same answer, both side. Okay, so let us start with this side, sa left side. So gagawin muna natin, umpisahan natin dito sa grouping symbols natin. So we have 5 plus negative 4. So mag-add tayo ng unlike sign. Magkaiba yung ating sign, which is ang 5 ay positive, ang 4 ay negative. So again, balikan natin yung rules natin in addition of integers having unlike sign. So ano nga yung rules natin? Kapag nag-a-add daw tayo ng integers na magkaiba ang sign, it's either positive or negative and positive. Okay, so we are going to subtract their absolute values. Okay, isasubtract daw natin yung kanilang absolute value. So ngayon, kukunin muna natin yung absolute value ng 5. So again, ano nga yung absolute value? Pag sinabi natin absolute value, it is a distance of a number from 0 in a number line. So gaano ba kalayo yung 5 from 0 in a number line? So it is 5 units. So therefore, the absolute value of 5 is 5. How about negative 4? So negative 4 is 4 units from 0. So therefore, the absolute value of negative 4 is 4. So we are going to subtract their absolute value. So 5 minus 4, we have 1. Okay, so 1 po yung sum ng positive 5 and negative 4. So paano natin malalaman kung ano yung sign ng sagot nila? So titingnan natin, ano ba dito, saan ba dito ang may pinakamataas na absolute value? So yung 5 po ang may pinakamataas na absolute value. So ano ba ang sign ng 5? So positive. So therefore, our answer is positive 1. So meron tayong positive 1. Then bring down 7. Okay, so mayroon na tayo ngayong 7 plus 1. Okay, so dito naman sa right side, okay, umpisahan din natin dito sa may grouping symbols natin. So we have quantity, -4 plus 7. Again, mag-a-add ulit tayo ng integers na magkaiba ang sign. So isasubtract natin yung kanilang absolute value. So 7 minus 4, we have 3. So alin ba ang may absolute na, number na may pinakamataas na absolute value? We have 7. So 7 is positive. So therefore, our answer is positive 3. Then bring down 5. Okay, so we have 7 plus 1 or 1 plus 7 is 8. Okay, so the other side naman, we have 5 plus 3, we have 8. So therefore, equal po yung ating sagot. So kahit binago natin yung groupings natin, still we come up with the same answer. So therefore, associative property is true under additions. Okay, so let's have our example for multiplication. Before that, kaya nagkaroon tayo ng associative property of addition. So be specific, bakit po addition? Dahil yung ginamit natin ditong operation ay addition. So meron tayong associative property of addition. So let us now proceed to multiplication. So the given example is quantity 2 times -5 times 6 is equal to 2 times the quantity -5 times 6. So in this given, dito muna tayo sa left side. Ano ba yung magkasama? Ano ba yung nakagrupo? So ang nakagrupo sa left side natin is quantity 2 times -5. So yung 2 at saka -5. So how about in the right side? Ganon din po ba? Hindi rin po. So ang magkagrupo dito is nagbago yung groupings natin, nagiging -5 and +6. So meron tayong quantity -5 times 6. So again, illustration pa rin ito ng associative property. So let us try to check kung itong associative property na to is true under multiplication. So kapag nagbigay siya sa atin ng the same answer, so tama po yun. True po siya under multiplication. So let us work out this problem. Again, mag-start tayo dito sa grouping symbols. 2 times -5. So mag-multiply tayo ng unlike sign. So kapag nag-multiply tayo ng integers na magkaiba ang sign, okay, the sign of the product is always negative. So this one, 2 times -5, so we have -10. Bakit po -10? Kasi ang minultiply natin is positive and negative. So pagka magkaiba po yung sign niya, the product is always negative. Okay, so we come up with -10, then bring down 6. Okay, dito tayo sa kabilang side. We have -5 times -6. Again, negative pa rin. So ang sagot natin dapat dyan is negative din. So 5 times 6, we have 30. So the product is -30. Then bring down to, so meron na tayong ganitong equation na yon. So meron tayong -10 times 6. So we have -60. Then 2 times -30. So we have -60. So again, nagbigay pa rin siya sa atin ng equal product. So therefore, associative property is also true under multiplication. So nagkaroon tayo ngayon ng associative property of multiplication over associative property of multiplication. So bakit po multiplication? Dahil yung symbol po natin o yung operation na ginamit natin dito is multiplication. So maging specific tayo. Kung yung ginamit nating operation ay addition, so it should be associative property of addition. Pag ang ginamit nating operation ay multiplication, it should be associative property of multiplication. Okay, let's have our fourth property, which is distributive property. From the word distribute, okay, ibibigay mo siya sa bawat isa. Okay, for any integers, A, B, and C, so yung A, B, and C daw are integers. So if I have her A times quantity B plus C, So ang gagawin daw natin dito, itong si A ay ita-times natin kay B. So we come up with A, B. Tapos itong si A uli, ita-times natin kay C. So we come up with A, C. So yung operation natin dito is addition since yung given operation ay addition. Okay, so we have another one. We have A quantity B minus C. So dito naman sa illustration na ito, yung A, i-multiply mo uli kay B, so we come up with A, B. Then yung A, i-multiply mo uli sa kay C, so we have A, C. So this time, this is subtraction. Bakit po subtraction? Dahil yung given operation natin dito is subtractions. Okay, so we have our examples. We have 2 times the quantity, 4 plus 3. So if we are going to apply the distributive property, so ibig sabihin, we are going to multiply 2 by 4. So 2 times 4 we have, okay, 2 times 4. Next, multiply 2 by 3. So we have 2 times 3. So again, this is addition dahil yung given operation natin dito ay addition. Okay, so let us try to solve this problem. Tingnan natin kung magbibigay siya sa atin ng the same answer. So let's start with this one. 2 times 4 we have 8. Then 2 times 3 we have 6. Okay, so 8 plus 6 we have 14. So 14 po yung lumabas na sagot natin. So let us try to check kung dito sa left side natin, isosolve natin siya without using distributive property, kung ang lalabas sa ating sagot ay 14 din, kung magbibigay siya sa atin ng the same answer. Okay, let us try to solve the left side of the equation without using the distributive property. So unahin muna natin itong nasa loob ng grouping symbol. So we have 4 plus 3 is equal to 7, then bring down 2. So we have 2 times 7 is equal to 14. So ibig sabihin, equal po yung sagot natin. So equal po siya. So as you can see, using distributive property, ganun pa rin ang nakukuha nating sagot. So therefore, distributive property under addition is true. So yung distributive property daw under addition is true. So magkaroon tayo ngayon ng distributive property of multiplication over addition. So let's have another examples for the subtraction. So we have 4 times the quantity of 5 minus 2. So again, if you're going to use the distributive property, just multiply 4 by 5. So we come up with 4 times 5. Next, multiply 4 by 2. So we have 4 times 2. Again, this is negative or this is minus. Minus po ito kasi yung given operation natin is minus. So unahin uli natin isosolve yung ating right side. Tingnan natin kung ano yung magiging sagot natin. So 4 times 5, we have 20. Then 4 times 2, we have 8. So this is minus since yung operation natin dito is minus. So now 20 at minus 8, 20 minus 8 is equal to 12. So 12 po yung sagot natin. So ngayon i-check naman natin without using the distributive property kung magbibigay din siya sa atin ng the same answer which is 12. So gamitan hindi natin siya gamitan ng distributive property. So unahin natin yung nasa grouping symbols natin. So 5 minus 2, we have 3, then bring down 4. So 4 times 3, we have 12. So again, as you can see, using distributive property, ganun pa rin yung nakukuha nating sagot. So therefore, distributive property under subtraction is true. Kaya nagkaroon tayo ngayon ng distributive property of multiplication over subtractions. So let us now proceed to the fifth property, which is the identity property. So under po ng identity property, meron tayong dalawa dyan, which is the additive identity property and the multiplicative identity property. So unahin muna natin yung additive identity property. So the sum of any number and zero is the given number itself. So from the word identity, ibig sabihin magkamukha. So in our given example, we have 6 plus 0 is equal to 6. So ibig sabihin, lahat daw po ng number na i-add mo sa 0, ang sum po niya is the number itself. So kung titingnan natin, yung number po na in-add natin sa 0 ay kamukha po siya ng sum natin, which is 6. So the same as our second example, yung 8 plus 0 is equal to 8. So yung 8, in-add po natin sa 0, ang kalalabasan po is the number itself, which is 8. So from the word identity, ibig sabihin yung sum natin is or kamukha siya nung given number na in-add natin sa 0. So again, pag sinabi nating additive identity property, the sum of any number and 0 is the given number itself. So dito, yung 0 is the identity elements for addition. So yung 0 na to, ito yung tinatawag natin na identity elements for addition. So let us now proceed to multiplicative identity property. So the same din yan, identity. Ibig sabihin, kamukha din. Okay, let's have the definition. The product of any number and 1 is the given number itself. So let's have our example. 6 times 1 is equal to 6 and 8 times 1 is equal to 8. So kung titingnan natin, yung number na minultiply natin sa 1, which is 6, ay kamukha po siya, identity. Kamukha siya nung product natin, which is 6. Okay. Then, yung example number 2 natin, yung 8 na minultiply natin sa 1, ang product niya is 8, which is kamukha po siya nung product natin. So, magkamukha yung isang factor natin at saka yung ating product. So, ang ibig sabihin ng multiplicative identity property, the product of any number and 1 is the given number itself. So what is the identity elements for multiplications? So 1 is the identity elements for multiplications. Okay, so let's have now our next property, which is the inverse property. So under po ng inverse property, meron tayong additive inverse property and multiplicative inverse property. So unahin muna natin yung additive inverse property. So ano bang ibig sabihin ng additive inverse? So pag sinabi nating additive inverse, ito rin po yung tinatawag natin na opposite. Okay, so let's say for example, what is the opposite of 5? Ano daw po ang opposite ng 5? So yung opposite ng 5 po is negative 5. Okay, so yan po yung tinatawag natin na opposite. Okay, how about the opposite of or the additive inverse of negative 20? So the additive inverse of negative 20 is positive 20. Okay, now ano bang ibig sabihin or what do we mean by additive inverse property? So pag sinabi nating additive inverse property, the sum of any number and its additive inverse is 0. Okay, so let's have our example. We have 6 plus negative 6 is equal to 0. So kung titingnan natin dito yung given natin, yung unang number natin is 6. So ano ba ang additive inverse ng 6? So we have negative 6. So if we are going to find the sum of positive 6 and negative 6, okay, the answer is 0. Okay, so let's have another one. We have negative 8 plus positive 8 is equal to 0. So kung titingnan natin yung given na to, yung negative 8 natin, ang kanyang additive inverse or yung kanyang opposite is 8. So, nung kinuha natin ang kanilang sum, still, ang sum is 0. Okay, another one. 10 plus negative 10 is equal to 0. So, 10, the additive inverse of positive 10 is negative 10. So, the sum of these two number is 0. So, let us now proceed to multiplicative inverse property. So pag sinabi nating multiplicative inverse, ito din po yung tinatawag natin na reciprocal. Okay, reciprocal. So let's say for example, 5. What is the reciprocal of 5? So the reciprocal of 5 is 1/5. Okay, so ano bang ibig sabihin ng multiplicative inverse property? The product of any number and its multiplicative inverse or reciprocal is 1. Okay, so we have our example. We have 6 times 1, 6 is equal to 1. Kung titingnan natin dito, meron tayong 6. So ano nga ba ang multiplicative inverse ng 6 or reciprocal ng 6? So alam natin na yung 6 na yan, meron po yung denominator na 1. So kapag kinuha natin yung kanyang reciprocal, magiging 1, 6. So meron tayo ngayong 6 times 1 is equal to 6 and 1 times 6 is equal to 6. So 6 divided by 6 is equal to 1. So ibig sabihin, kapag yung number ay i-multiply natin sa kanyang multiplicative inverse, for example, we have negative 8 times negative 1, 8 is equal to 1. So kung titingnan natin yung example number 2 natin, mayroon tayong negative 8. Okay? So kung negative yung number natin, kapag kinuha po natin yung kanyang reciprocal or multiplicative inverse, hindi po natin babaguhin yung sign. Still negative pa rin po yan. So therefore, the reciprocal of negative 8 is negative 1, 8. So wag po tayong malilito dito kasi kanina sa additive inverse, pag kinuha natin yung additive inverse ng 6 ay nagiging negative 6. So hindi po yan applicable dito sa multiplicative inverse. Kapag kukunin natin yung multiplicative inverse natin, if it is negative, negative pa rin po yung kanyang multiplicative inverse. Okay, so another example. We have negative 1/5. So what is the reciprocal of negative 1/5? So the reciprocal of negative 1/5 is negative 5. So negative 1/5 times negative 5 is equal to 1. So this is all about the multiplicative inverse property. So again, pag sinabi nating multiplicative inverse property, the product of any number and its multiplicative inverse or reciprocal is equal to 0. Okay, let's have our last property, which is zero property of multiplication. So ano nga ba ang zero property of multiplication? So the product of any number and zero is 0. So ang ibig sabihin dito, kahit anong number po ang i-multiply natin sa 0, still yung product natin o yung sagot natin is 0. So let's have our first example. 6 times 0 is equal to 0. Okay, the second one, we have negative 8 times 0 is equal to 0. Then we have 0 times 7 is equal to 0. So kahit anong number po ang i-multiply natin sa 0, still the product is 0. So that is the zero property of multiplication. So let's have our exercises. Identify the property that justify each statement. So we have our example number 1. 16 plus negative 16 is equal to 0. So kung titingnan natin yung given number natin, yung 16 natin ay inad natin sa kanyang additive inverse. So additive inverse. So anong property kaya ang ginamit natin dito? So ang property na ginamit natin dito is the additive inverse property. So malinaw po yan kasi yung 16, in-add natin sa kanyang additive inverse. So ang property na ginamit natin dyan, additive inverse property. Okay, for number 2, we have 20 times 1 is equal to 20. So kung titingnan natin yung 20, minultiply natin sa 1. So yung kanyang sagot ay 20. Kung titingnan natin yung given number na minultiply natin sa 1 ay kamukha ng ating product. So ano po bang property ang ginamit natin dito? So kamukha, ibig sabihin identity. So the property that we use is multiplicative identity. Bakit multiplicative? Dahil yung operation po natin ay multiplication. Okay, next, number 3. We have quantity 3 times 4 times 5 is equal to 5 times 3 or 5 times the quantity of 3 times 4. So kung titingnan natin yung sa left side ng equation natin, may groupings po tayo diyan. Ano po ba yung nakagrupo natin diyan? You have 3 times 4. And then pagdating sa right side ng equation, ano po yung nakagrupo natin? We have still 3 times 4. So ibig sabihin, hindi nagbabago yung groupings natin. Ano lang ang nagbago sa atin? Yung order ng given. Kasi dito sa sa left side, nauuna po yung quantity 3 times 4 bago ang 5. Pagdating sa right side naman, nauuna yung 5 bago yung quantity 3 times 4. So ibig sabihin, this is commutative. So, wag natin kalimutan yung operation na ginamit natin dito ay multiplication. So, it should be commutative property of multiplication. So, magiging specific po tayo dyan. Commutative property of multiplication. Bakit multiplication? Dahil yung operation na involved natin is multiplication. Okay, so we have our number 4. So our given number 4, quantity 2 plus 3 plus 5 is equal to 2 plus the quantity of 3 plus 5. So ano ba yung napapansin natin dito? So puntahan muna natin, tingnan muna natin yung left side ng equation natin, itong side na ito. Ano po ba yung nakagrouping sa side na ito? So yung nakagrouping sa side na ito is 2 or quantity 2 plus 3. How about sa right side? Ano yung nakagroupings natin? So ang nakagroupings natin dito is 3 and 5. So ibig sabihin, malinaw dito sa given natin na binago yung ating groupings. Nagbago yung ating groupings. So pag nagbago yung groupings natin, anong property ngayon? We have associative property. Okay, again, take note ulit, bakit addition ang ginamit natin? Dahil yung involved na operation po is addition. So we come up with associative property of addition. So we have number 5. We have negative 2/4 times negative 4 halves is equal to 1. So ano ba yung napapansin natin dito? Di ba yung negative 2/4 ay minultiply lang natin siya sa kanyang reciprocal, which is negative 4 halves. And then yung kanyang product is 1. So anong property ba ang ginamit natin dito? Multiplicative inverse property. Okay. So let's proceed to our next topic, which is changing fraction to decimal and vice versa. So unahin muna natin yung ating mga definition of terms. So the first term natin is fraction. So pag sinabing fraction is a part of a whole or of a set. Okay, next we have the rational number is any number that can be expressed in the form of fractions. Then the third one, we have decimal numeral system. Is the standard system by denoting integers or integer and non-integer numbers. It is an extension of the Arabic numeral. The way of denoting numbers in the decimal system is often referred to as decimal notation. Okay, our next term is terminating decimals, or those numbers which came to an end after a few repetitions after decimal point. Okay, the next one, we have the non-terminating decimals. Is a decimal number that continues endlessly. Decimal of this type cannot be represented as a fractions, and as a result are irrational numbers. Pi is a non-terminating and non-repeating decimal. So let us now proceed in converting fraction to decimal. Okay, so we have method 1, using long division. Ano bang ibig sabihin ng long division? Pag sinabi nating long division, we are going to divide the numerator by the denominator. So we have our first example, convert 5/8 to decimal. So if we are going to use the long division, so we are going to divide the numerator, which is 5, by the denominator, which is 8. So we come up with 5 divided by 8. So ayan po. So yung 5 po nasa loob ng division symbol natin, yung 8 ay nasa labas. Okay, so in this case, hindi tayo pwedeng mag-divide ng 5 by 8. So magdadagdag tayo dito ng decimal point. Dito po, magdadagdag din tayo. Kopyahin natin yung decimal point. Maglalagay tayo ng 0 dito. Then maglalagay din tayo ng mga 0 dito. So ngayon, pag nagdadagdag kasi tayo ng 0 sa number, hindi po nagbabago yung value ng number na yan. So meron na tayo ngayon yung dalawang number na to. 50. So 50 divided by 8 is equal to 6. Dito po natin siya ilalagay pagkatapos ng decimal point natin. So 6 times 8 is equal to 48. So ngayon, isasubtract natin yung 48 from 50. Ibabawas daw natin yung 48 sa 50. So we have 50 minus 48 is equal to 2. Then, ibababa natin yung 0 natin. So meron tayong 20. So 20 divided by 8 is equal to 2. Dito natin siya ilagay. Okay, 2 times 8 is equal to 16. So again, isasubtract mo yung 16 from 20. So mayroon tayong 20 minus 16 is 4. So again, bring down 0. So meron tayong 40. So ito naman, yung 40 na to, i-divide uli natin sa 8. So which is 5. So again, 5 times 8, we have 40. Then 40 minus 40 is equal to 0. So therefore, 5/8 is equal to 0.625. Or we can read this one as 625,000. Okay, so we have our next example. Convert 1/5 to decimal. So again, by using the long division, we are going to divide 1 by 5. So we have this one. So yung 1 natin ay nasa loob ng division symbols, yung 5 ay nasa labas. Okay, magdadagdag ulit tayo ng decimal point at saka 0. So we have decimal point, kukopyahin lang natin yung decimal point dito. Nasa column dapat yan, din magdadagdag tayo ng 0. So we have now 10 divided by 5 is equal to 2. And 2 times 5 is equal to 10. So i-minus lang natin. 10 minus 10 is equal to 0. So therefore, 1/5 is equal to 0.2 or 2/10. Okay, still converting fractions to decimal pa rin tayo, but this time we are going to use method 2. So yung method 2 natin, use the equivalent fractions with the denominator 10, 100s, 1,000, and etc. So ang ibig sabihin nito, yung given fraction daw natin ay i-change natin siya into equivalent fraction na yung kanyang denominator ay a power of 10. So these are the steps na gagamitin natin. So number 1, find a number that you can multiply the denominator of the fraction to make it 10, 100,000 or a power of 10. So, ibig sabihin, maghahanap daw tayo ng number dito na i-multiply natin sa denominator para yung kanyang denominator ay magiging power of 10, which is example 10, 100, or 1,000. So, step number 2, multiply both numerators and denominators by that number. So kung mahanap na natin, kung makita yung number natin na i-multiply natin sa denominator para maging power of 10 siya, so yung number na yon i-multiply din natin siya sa numerator. Kaya multiply both numerator and denominator by that number. Okay, step number 3. Then write down just the numerator, putting the decimal point in the correct spot, one space from the right hand side for every zero in the denominator. Okay, so let's have another example in converting fraction to decimal. So this time we are going to use the second method. So convert 1/5 to decimals. So pag ginamit po natin yung second method, ano daw po yung gagawin nga natin sa second method? We are going to change the given fraction. So yung fraction na i-convert natin to decimal, which is 1/5. So we are going to change this one into equivalent fraction. So paano po natin siya i-change into equivalent fraction? Maghahanap daw po tayo ng number na i-multiply natin sa denominator para yung denominator natin magiging power of 10. Okay, so in this case, anong number kaya ang pwede nating i-multiply sa 5 para magiging power of 10? So, pwede tayo sa 2. So, step 1 natin, we can multiply 5 by 2 to become 10. So, step 2, multiply both the numerator and denominator by 2. So, yung number na nakita natin para magiging power of 10 yung ating denominator is 2. So, i-multiply po natin siya both the numerator and denominator. So, we have this one. So, 1/5 is equal to 2/10. So, this fraction now is an equivalent fraction. So, paano po sila nagiging equivalent fraction? Again, balikan natin yung step natin kanina. We are going to multiply 1 or the numerator by 2. Saan natin galing yung 2? Ito yung number na nahanap natin kanina para yung denominator natin magiging power of 10. Okay, so 1 times 2 is equal to 2. Then multiplied 5, which is the denominator again, by 2. So we have 5 times 2, we have 10. Okay, so meron na tayo ngayong equivalent fraction. 1/5 is equal to 2/10. So these fractions are equivalent fractions. So step number 3, write down 2 with the decimal point one space from the right because 10 has 1 0. So we have this one. 1/5 is equal to 2/10. So alam natin they are equivalent fractions. So how we are going to write this one into decimal? Okay, so yung equivalent ng fraction ng 1/5 kanina is 2/10. So kunin muna natin yung numerator natin which is 2. Ayan, write down 2. Okay, ngayon titingnan natin yung ating denominator. Ano ba yung denominator natin? 10. Ilang zero po meron yung 10 natin? So may isang zero lang po tayo. So ibig sabihin, isang zero lang yan. So we are going to move the decimal point going to the left 1 unit. So kung ilang zero mayroon yung denominator natin, Yun lang po yung number ng or yung number kung ilang beses natin i-move ang ating decimal point. So in this case, meron tayong isang 0. So move the decimal point one place going to the left. So ito na yan. So therefore, 2/10 is equivalent to 0.2. Okay, 0.2 o this one can be read as 2/10. Ayan po, 2/10. Okay, so let's have our second example in converting fraction to decimal using method 2. Okay, so convert 3/4 to decimal. Okay, so kapag ginamit natin yung method 2, okay, ibig sabihin we are going to change 3/4 into equivalent fraction na kailangan yung kanyang denominator ay magiging power of 10. So ano po ba ang number na i-multiply natin sa 4 para magiging power of 10 siya? Okay. So the first step, we can multiply 4 by 25 to become 100. So yung number na i-multiply natin sa 4 para magiging power of 10 siya is 25. Okay, so step 2, multiply both numerator and denominator by 25. So we have now, so 3/4 is equivalent to 75 over 100. So paano po? Bakit po nagiging 75 over 100? Okay, so balikan natin yung number kanina, yung step natin kanina. Sabi natin, maghahanap tayo ng number na i-multiply sa denominator para maging power of 10 siya. So ang nahanap natin is 25. So ibig sabihin, yung 25 na to, i-multiply natin siya both numerator and denominator to find the equivalent fraction. So we have 3 times 25 is equal to 75. Next, 4 times 25 is equal to 100. So now, we have 3/4 is equal to 75 over 100. So ibig sabihin, itong dalawang number na to ay equal. Okay, so they are equal. So step 3, write down 75 with the decimal point two spaced from the right because 100 has 2 0. So we have now 3/4 is equal to 75 over 100. So they are equivalent fraction. Okay. So dito sa equivalent fraction natin, we have 75 over 100. So yung numerator natin, which is 75, isusulat natin yan. Ngayon, ilang zero po ba meron ang 100? So dalawang zero po meron ang 100. So ibig sabihin, we are going to move the decimal point 2 places going to the left. Ayan po. So ayan po yan. So from this point, 1, 2. So from this point, we have 1, 2. So we come up with 0.75. Or this one can be read as 75 hundredths. Okay, our next topic is converting decimals to fractions. So to convert a decimal to a fraction, follow these steps. Okay, number 1, rewrite the decimal as a fraction with a denominator of 1. Okay, next, multiply both numerator and denominator by 10 raised to n, where n equals to the number of digits after the decimal. Then number 3, simplify or reduce the fractions. Okay, so let us now convert decimal to fractions. So we have our first example, convert 0.75 to a fractions. Okay, so to convert this one into the fractions, write down 0.75 divided by 1. So ito na po yan, 0.75 divided by 1. Okay, step 2, multiply both numerator and denominator by 100. Bakit po 100? Because there are 2 digit after the decimal point. So ito po yan. Meron po tayong 2 digit dyan. So it is tens, hundreds. So that 10 times 10 is equal to 100. Okay, so we have now 0.75 over 1 is equal to 74 over 100. Paano po nagiging 74 over 100? So balikan natin yung step natin kanina. Sabi natin, multiply both numerator and denominator by 100. So saan natin nakuha yung 100 uli? Okay, so dito po sa given fraction natin, alam naman natin na yung 7 ay tenths, yung 4 ay hundredths. Okay, so 100 yung imo-multiply natin both numerator and denominator. So we have now 0.74 times 100 is equal to 74. Now 1 times 100 is equal to 100. So we have now our equivalent. We have 0.74 is equal to 74 over 100. So this one. Okay, so ito na po ba yung final answer natin? So hindi pa po. We have to reduce this one into lowest term. Kasi kaya pa po natin siyang i-reduce into lowest term. Okay, since the resulting fraction can still be reduced into lowest term, so we are going to do the step number 3, which is simplify or reduce the fraction. So we have 74 over 100. So we have to reduce this one into lowest term. So how we are going to reduce this one into lowest term? So we have to divide both numerator and denominator by 2. So 74 divided by 2, we have 37. Then 100 divided by 2, we have 50. So therefore, the equivalent fraction is 37 over 50. So meron na tayo ngayong 0.74 is equal to 37 over 50. Or 74 hundredths is equal to 37 over 50. Okay, let's have another example in converting decimals to fractions. So we have convert 0.125 to a fractions. So in another way in converting decimal to fractions, okay, by just reading the given decimals. Okay, so let's have this one. 0.125 is read as 125,000. Okay, again, 0.125 is read as 125,000. So kung paano po natin siya babasahin, ganun din po natin siya isusulat. So we have 0.125 is equal to 125,000. Okay, so still this fraction class can be reduced into lowest term. So we are going to reduce this one into lowest term. So we have now 125 over 1,000 or 125,000 is equal to 1/8. Paano po tayo or paano po naging 1/8 yan? So by dividing both numerator and denominator by 125. So 125 divided by 125 is equal to 1. Next, 1,000 divided by 125 is equal to 8. So therefore, 125,000 is equal to 1/8. So we have now 0.125 is equal to 1/8. Or 125,000 is equal to 1/8. Okay, let's have our exercises. Convert the following fractions to decimals. So number 1, we have 7/10. Okay, so in these given fractions, kung titingnan natin yung denominator natin, naka-power of 10 na po siya. So yung denominator natin is 10. So in this fractions, ang gagawin lang natin, isusulat lang natin yung ating numerator which is 7. Then titingnan natin yung ating denominator. Ilang 0 po ba? Meron yung 10 natin dyan. So isa lang po. So therefore, we are going to move the decimal point mula dito sa part na to going to the left. So we have this 1. So mula dito papunta sa left side, magmo-move po tayo ng 1 unit. So therefore, we come up with 0.7. So 7/10 is equal to 0.7. Okay, number 2, we have 1/3. So itong given fraction natin ay yung kanyang denominator po ay hindi siya power of 10. So ibig sabihin, wala rin tayong number na may multiply dito para magiging power of 10 yung ating denominator. So ang gagawin lang natin dito, gagamitan natin siya ng long division. So we have to divide 1 by 3 by using long division. So we come up with 0.333. So kung napapansin niyo may tatlong dot pa tayong nakalagay dito. So ang ibig sabihin po niyan, ellipsis po. So ibig sabihin, infinite yung ating number. May karugtong pa po yan na hindi natin isinusulat. So paulit-ulit lang po yan na 3. So we can also write this one as 0.3 and then meron tayong a line dito sa taas ng 3. So it means na yung number 3 na yan ang inulit-ulit. So yung decimal natin, ito yung tinatawag na natin na non-terminating decimals. Okay, for number 3. So we have 4 and 3/5. So in this given fraction, kasi may mixed number tayo, meron tayong whole number, so isusulat na natin yung whole number natin which is 4 plus, i-divide natin yung fraction natin which is 3 divided by 5. So meron tayong 4 plus the quantity 3 divided by 5. So again, we have 4 plus 0.6. So saan ba natin nakukuha yung 0.6? So yung 0.6 po ay nakuha natin sa 3 divided by 5. Okay, so we have now 4 plus 0.6. So we come up with 4.6. So let's have another example. Okay, convert the following decimals to fraction. For number 1, we have 0.8. So in converting decimal to fractions, kung paano po natin babasahin yung decimal natin, ganun lang din po natin siya isusulat sa fraction. So for number 1, 0.8, babasahin po natin siya as 8/10. So 8/10, so isusulat po natin as 8/10. So this fraction now, ay pwede pa rin po natin siyang i-reduce into lowest term. So kapag po pwede pang i-reduce sa lowest term, i-reduce po natin siya sa lowest term. So we come up with 4/5. Paano po natin nakuha yung 4/5? Okay, by dividing both numerator and denominator by 2. So 8 divided by 2, we have 4. And 10 divided by 2, we have 5. Okay, so therefore, 0.8 is equal to 4/5. Number 2, we have 0.25. So this decimal can be read as 25 hundredths. So 25 hundredths, so we can write this one as 25 over 100 or 25 hundredths. So still, this fraction can reduce to lowest term, so i-reduce din natin siya sa lowest term. So we have 1/4. So paano po nakuha yung 1/4? By dividing both numerator and denominator by 25. So 25 divided by 25, we have 1. And 100 divided by 25, we have 4. So therefore, 0.25 is equal to 1/4. Number 3, we have 0.5. So this decimal can be read as 5/10. So isulat natin 5/10. Still, pwede pa rin natin i-reduce sa lowest term, so magiging 1/2. Paano po siya naging 1/2? By dividing both numerator and denominator by 5. So 5 divided by 5, we have 1. And 10 divided by 5, we have 2. So 0.5 is equal to 1/2. Thanks for watching!
Maraming salamat at sinamahan ninyo ako sa ating aralin sa ika-4 na linggo ng Grade 7 Mathematics. If you have questions, feel free to send a message to our official page, Math Team Mathematics Teachers of Mandaluyong, or send a message to your math teachers. Once again, I'm Maam Edlyn saying magsayang mag-aral, tayo ng matuto. Bye!